there's always something that needs a little fixing on Farpoint Farms.
Hey guys, it's Eric from Farpoint Restorations. It's time, man. We've got this thing undressed. If you watched the last video, took all the shrouds off of it, got it taken down pretty much to where I need it to be. I will be replacing all the seals on the oil cooler and cleaning it out, but I'm not going to pull the distributor. No need to take off the fuel pump. So that's about where she's at. What we are going to do is finally figure out why we lost compression. I would bet dollars that it is a bad valve in this cylinder head. And the thing about this is I'm going to rebuild this engine. I'm putting new jugs on, I'm putting new cylinder pistons and rings in it. I've got 2 brand new heads for this. That's overkill. If you want to get into this hobby and you want to do this stuff on the cheap, you could tear down an engine like this that doesn't need to be rebuilt really, and you could pull off that head, and with about $40 in tools you could replace that one valve, clean everything else back up, and stuff it back together with a new gasket set. You could be in and out of this job for about $100 to $125. I'm not doing that because I intend on hanging on to this 74 Super Beetle for quite a few years. I don't want to be able to put some miles. I might even take a road trip or 2 in this thing, and I mean like 1,000-mile road trip. So I want to make sure that what I have is not just right now, but stays that way. Anyway, let's get the camera close in here. We're going to pull off this cylinder head, and we will see what mysteries we have inside. All right, if we're going to pull this head, we don't need a ton of tools, but the first thing we are going to need is to remove this valve cover. And I've got new gaskets. I bought a whole engine gasket kit for this, so I'm just going to go ahead and take that off. The next thing we have to remove is this. These are our rocker for this side. So these are our 4 springs that attach to our 4 valves. There are adjustments here. You loosen up that nut, make your adjustment here with a feeler gauge, and you do that. And I'll show you this. When I put it back together, I'll show you how to adjust valves, because there's no way to get it any clearer than this. But for right now, we're just taking off those 2 bolts. We're going to pull that out, and then we have push rods that we need to remove. And we also are going to inspect those, make sure we don't have a bent one or something like that, because that also could cause a dead miss on a cylinder. And there is washers on everything. Back then they didn't have locking. Don't lose that. They didn't have locking washers, so they just put washers on all of it. There we go. All right. So I'm going to lay that down on the ground. And I'm actually going to put these back on, and just to hold things into place, so we don't lose those. Cool. This is our connecting rod. And what we're looking for when we look at a connecting rod is just to see, hey, is this thing got any bends, kinks, stuff like that? This one looks beautiful. We'll move on. And here's another one. And it also is in great shape, so we'll lay that one down. And if you're not sure, if your eyesight's bad, I've got my reading glasses on, but if you're not sure, you can take them and roll them on a flat surface to make sure that they are truly flat. The ends should also be round without too many burrs. And they do have a little hole through the center, because sometimes oil does travel through them. And we'll get to this last one here. And it also looks perfect. So that's great. Alright. So that means it is time to remove the cylinder head and figure out the mystery. What we have is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bolts that hold this thing in place, and we're going to go ahead and remove those. And when we put it back on, there's this whole order of things, you know, tighten to a certain spec, and there's an order. But since we're just taking this off, we can forego some of that and just go ahead and remove it. Oh, I got the wrong size. I'm so used to working on Asian cars where the sizes are 12, 14, 17, and 19. But on this, the sizes are, you got 10s and 8s like a Asian car would have, but then you have 13s and 15s before you hit 17s and 19s. And there are some 18s as well, although I don't know if there are any on the Beetle. There certainly are a bunch on the Volkswagen Rabbits, the early water-cooled cars. Alright, there's one. And I'm going to keep all these parts together. I'll put them in a little sandwich baggie to make sure that they don't get mixed up with the other side or have any issues like that. Cool. Alright, it is the moment of truth. I'll probably have to get a rubber mallet here. There we go. I'm going to give it some love, light love. Looks like a couple of pushrod tubes came out with it. Set those aside. I also have replacements on these. I would recommend replacing those. They're a very big leaking point. Now that's weird. Usually you can see the damage. Oh, there it is. Yeah, it's burned out on the top. Maybe hard to see. It's burned out right there. It doesn't sit properly. The seat itself has damage, like the valve is offset. I can see light coming through there. So there is our problem. Now, like I said, due to the age of this poor old girl here and how many hard runs she's had, we're going to go ahead and replace all this. I got new push rod seals. I have cylinders and pistons that we'll be putting in. But before I tear down any farther than the heads, I want to clean this block, because with these cylinders still in place, no debris should get inside other than the oil stand or alternator stand there. So I'm gonna be cleaning this off, because I mean, look at there's just so much gunk. There's 50 years of trash in this thing, and we don't want that. So that's what's next. I will clean it, and then once I'm done cleaning, it'll be time to take these off and replace the pistons. So I hope you'll stick around for that part of the series. Take care.